call the regular meeting of the Ponca City Board of Education to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, December 11th. Let's start off with a flag salute. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, may the joyous light of December gather us with appreciation for the gift of education. Bless our school board with wisdom to nurture a spirit of kindness, compassion, and joy throughout our learning community. May the holiday season fill our hearts with gratitude, understanding, and a shared commitment to fostering a positive and uplifting environment for all. Amen.
With the presentation and recognition of the Employee of the Month and Friend of Education Awards. And tonight we have Certified Employee of the Month, Diana Rankin, a counselor at Roosevelt Elementary. Come on up.
I'm doing this on behalf of the principal who's at her music program this evening. So Diana is the December Certified Employee of the Month. Diana joined Roosevelt this year and has proven herself to be irreplaceable. She does an amazing job connecting with students and teachers alike. She has identified many needs at Roosevelt, all while learning the ins and outs of her new position. She always steps up to every task asked of her with enthusiasm and a smile, and she is everything they ever wanted in a counselor. They are very blessed to have her on the team. So congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Rankin. And if you'll hang around, we'll be taking a photograph after all the... All right, our Support Employee of the Month is Lori Miner, a secretary at Roosevelt Elementary.
So Lori has gone above and beyond her duties as the new site secretary at Roosevelt. She is always willing to help students, teachers, and members of the community. Lori is constantly working to improve their space, protocols, and their school. She loves every student that comes to the office and always has a smile for them no matter how hectic the day has been. Her positive attitude is contagious, and we have all been thrilled to have her on our team.
Thank you. And our Friend of Education for December is Community National Bank.
Well, she isn't here, but we'll just recognize her in
Yeah, I would love to hear about it.
So Emily Thompson is the liaison between Wildcat Academy and Community National Bank. Emily is always willing to help us out with anything we ask. She brainstormed with Mr. at the beginning of the year for ideas to help improve attendance. Emily came up with the idea of providing a Sonic gift card each week to a student that had perfect attendance the previous week. Emily worked with students in their life skills class this fall. She talked to students about using a debit card and how to open and maintain a bank account. C&B provides gift bags for Student of the Month and Teacher of the Month. They also provide teacher meals during Parent Conference Night and during Teacher Appreciation Week. These are only a few of the many things that Community National Bank does for the students and staff at Wildcat Academy. Emily and Community National Bank have never told us no. We're so extremely appreciative of all they do for our students and staff.
If the award recipients would please meet out in the hallway and have their photograph taken, and then usually this is the time where most everybody leaves too. If you're not staying for the regular family, I'm just saying. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to stay, but. I forgot to ask her before she popped out. Laura, was there any public comment?
No.
Moving on to item 4. We're going to vote to recess the regular board meeting and call a public hearing for tribal leaders and Native American parents to discuss the participation of Native American students in educational programs, to comment on educational programs, and to review section 2.3 of the board policy, Native American Community Relations. I entertain a vote. Nancy's made the motion, second by Dawn. Any discussion or question? Call for the vote.
John Newman.
Aye.
Robin Riley. Anna Roland. Judy Sharon. Nancy Zimmerman.
And, yes, sorry, Ms. Bell. You're welcome.
Oh, good to know.
You guys got it on your side?
Yeah. I just let her know, so she was like, where's my name?
Some of it's working.
Which one?
Very nice illustrations there.
Hopefully we can get pictures up.
Just go ahead and go, and if we can get this.
Good evening, Katia. My name is Sarah Buffalo Head Bell, and I'm the Indian Education Director for the district. And it is my honor to bring some information to you this evening, share with you a little bit about our program. And I will try to be brief. I'm not known for being brief, but I'm really going to try. So we have 4 objectives with the program. Those are goals that we have to meet in order to keep our funding, to apply for more funding, things of that nature. And those include, our first one is ensuring academic success for Native American students. Our second one is increasing cultural awareness. Our third objective is increasing graduation rates. And our fourth objective is decreasing dropout rates. And those can change each time that we reapply for the grant in the spring. We can change those objectives if we want to. I know for several years running we have kept these objectives. This is my second year, and so I chose to keep, it was my first grant reporting year, and I chose to play it safe and keep those the same. And depending on how our community meetings go, feedback from the board, feedback from our administration, any needs that I identify, we can change those in the spring if we need to. Our first grant objective is ensuring academic success, and I just want to share with you a few points on how we try to achieve that in the district. The first one and the most important one is our Title VI teacher assistants. We have 11 sites in the district, and out of those 11 sites right now, 6 of our sites have TAs with them. From my understanding, historically, the program has never had a TA at every site. And I identified that last year as something that I wanted to work to change. And one of the things that I've been able to do this year is build a better relationship with Paw Nation. They have agreed through an MOU with the district to provide us 2 full-time, what they call education specialists with their fundings, Johnson O'Malley. Those education specialists function much like our Title VI TAs do. There are a few things that are different, but they, starting in January, they will be at 3 of our sites. And as of January 4th, we will have a representative for Indian education at every single site. And I'm very proud of that. Very neat. Our Title VI TAs are the heartbeat of our program. Ms. Jean, I want to recognize her faithfully being here this evening. And we do have an opening right now. I have hired 2 in the last 4 months, and both have fallen through. And so I have the opening again. I have been knocking on doors and talking to people. A little bit about most of my background is in HR, and so for me, the team that I like to build are people that I can recruit myself. And so I've been trying to do that and been very picky, and we do not have that staff filled yet, but we do have an opening. So if you know anybody, please come see me. And so Title VI TAs, they provide one-on-one and group tutoring to our children. They are an advocate. They can sit in on IEPs. They can step in and help and assist with behavior modification. They can increase and help build bridges in communication between our families, our students, and our staff. They provide accountability. One of the ways that we're really seeing this play out is last year was my first year, and Barbara Cusick made the recommendation that we start making 5 touches a week of our families. That could be a card in the mail, that could be a house visit, which we are able to do. That could be a phone call, an email, some type of communication with children. We want to build those relationships. We want to get away from the stigma that the Title VI classrooms is for the dumb students, which we've heard that because a lot of kids come to us for remediation. So we started building in culture and language and activities and things so students can come in there and learn about their culture. Even if they aren't in need of any assistance, they can still come into our classrooms. We're trying to change that narrative. And so we also don't want the first time that a parent or a grandparent hears from us to be when their student is failing or is in trouble or is struggling. We want to already have that relationship established so that when they receive that phone call, they're a little bit more receptive to that information. It really goes a long way. And so accountability is a big part. I see this a lot, even just with our high school students, because that's where my office is located. Our students, we went to Native American Thunder Day, OKC Thunder Day last month, and I had about 10 kids that were not going to be able to go, they weren't eligible. And just me being in the high school, making those contacts, those emails, pulling them into my office, pulling them out of the hallway, sit right here, we're going to get this done. All 10 of them were able to get their grades up and go on a field trip. That's what we mean by accountability. And then, of course, integration of culture and education. So our TAs do newsletters every month, monthly newsletters. Those have a language component that has a fun fact, birthdays, and any other updates or announcements that the principal of that site wants our students to know. We also are working, we had a little bit of a hiccup with this as well. I don't want it to seem like it was a promise I made that we couldn't keep. We originally were working on an MOU with Morningstar Consulting out of Nebraska. Dr. Warrior, she's a Ponca woman, and she's very excited to start working with the district to provide on-site counseling services for our students. But due to the very tense political climate of our tribe, some things fell through there, and she chose not to go forward with that. I completely respected her decision. I said, that's all right, we'll find a new pivot, and we did. And the Ponca tribe has agreed to provide a full-time on-site LPC. Those are in the very beginning stages, but Adam has shared with me the MOU template. We've been talking a little bit about that, and that is coming. We just have to change the strategy. We also have the Kohai Native American Heritage Club. It's something I'm very proud of. We reinstituted that last year, and if we're not the second or third largest club in the high school, I mean, we're up there. We're in the top 5, I'm sure. And we've had a really great response with that. One of the things that I was really on the fence about it. People were like, man, I don't know if kids are gonna get involved. I don't know if this is a good idea. And Betsy easily sent an email to everyone at Kohai, and there was a quote in the email that stuck with me, and I thought, okay, that's a God wink, I gotta do this. And that quote said something to the effect of connection is linked to higher academic outcomes. And I thought, well, that's something for me, when I feel connected to something and I feel like I'm seen and valued and a part of something, I'm more receptive to things, I'm gonna be more involved. And so that's what our club has been doing. We meet bi-weekly at the high school, and we have cultural activities. Sometimes this last time, we just had snacks and hung out and played a couple of games, got to know them, and it's an organic way for me to get to know the students too. I can kind of slide over to a student and be like, hey, your grade is slipping, what's going on, how's that going? It provides that way to do that rather than me just like pulling them out in the hallway and they've never seen me before. So, ensuring academic success, that is our first objective. Our second objective is increasing cultural awareness. The club is a way that we do this. Native American Heritage Month was last month. Not sorry, but we did flood the district Facebook page. Our Facebook page is flooded with it. I believe Christy even started it's called S'more. It's like a type of online newsletter, because we were just like sitting here, I mean, almost every hour between myself and our Title 68s, we're sending her, oh, this is what our kids did, this is what we're doing tomorrow, and this is what we're doing next week. And she was like, I'm starting a s'mores. So she started a newsletter for that. And I really appreciated her doing that, because she didn't have to. But that's how busy we were in November. And I've said this very open with you guys in the past, that a goal of mine is that the directors, that we would not be something bright and shiny that comes out for the district in November and then we're back in a box and you don't see us again until November. We want to be a living, breathing program, something that we can all be proud of and something that can bring us all together. And Native American Heritage Month, we had mini powwows again. For the second year in a row, we were able to visit every site. It was chaotic. I didn't get any sleep, and I'm really, in a way, I'm relieved. It's intense. I mean, if you can imagine, we had record-breaking numbers again this year. Chris Littlecook, my predecessor, told me last year, I've never seen this many dancers, and we had close to 70. This year, we had close to 100 dancers, and that is a direct thank you to my TAs that work hard to recruit those dancers, to keep that communication with the parents, and we were able to go to all the schools again, and that was really cool.
And your videos on our Facebook had like 1.2 million views.
That's very cool. I love hearing numbers like that. That's engagement. That's great. We also, something that we did this year is we had the princesses go to the schools, and they would stand outside the schools and greet the students, and they did story time and read books to the children, shared some type of language component in the opening. That's been really good for our students as well. That's giving them some leadership opportunities. And I could go on about Native American Heritage Month, but I'm sure you guys saw it, so I'll move on. We will be going to the First Americans Museum in May with our 5th grade class. That is a cultural field trip that we take. We also have cultural activities that are throughout the year. We do eating workshops. We're going to host a hand drum contest and a stickball tournament in the spring. Last month we also had a teepee exhibition with our elder and chairman of the Ponca tribe, Oliver Littlecook. We had about 20 students that came to that, and the students learned how to put a tiki up, which was really neat. We also have a hand game coming up in February. We're going to be inviting Huska and Frontier to come and battle it out with us in the hand game at the high school. So very excited about that. Sorry, February 16th, it's a Friday. You guys are welcome to come. Would love to have you come. It's really a game of guess which hand it's in kind of thing. There's some tactic to it. We have a live drum there. It's really fun. We'll have food and door prizes and things like that. So you guys are welcome to attend. We'd love to have you. Our third objective is increasing graduation rates, and our fourth objective is decreasing dropout rates. And I combine these because, as you can imagine, through pre-K all the way through high school, where this matters most and where we've seen these numbers the most is in high school. And so I'm going to talk mostly about high school for a second, where we're trying to meet this need and try to meet this objective. Obviously, I talked about the club. The club is meeting that need. We are moving a Title VI teacher there in January. We're transferring Jennifer Malloy from West, where she was very successful. The kids have been writing her letters daily, begging her not to leave, that she is leaving West and coming to the high school. I was very impressed by the work that she did with her own daughter in the scholarship race and preparing her child for that next step. That is a goal for our future. I mean, it's not in our goals right now, but that is one that we're kind of under the radar doing already. And so she's very passionate, she's very motivated, and I think she's going to be a great fit for our high school. We also have a great relationship with our internship coordinator, Jordan Jackson Gross. She has placed multiple students of ours in internships. She and I created a partnership with the Ponca tribe, and so now we have students that can go out there to the Ponca tribe and started an internship out there. We're not able to do this past spring. There was some intense political climate things happening with the Ponca tribe, but I had a meeting with them last month. We are wanting to do a career day in the spring, and ideally what that would be is students would sign up. Jordan's going to help me sign students up, and they'll be able to go out there and spend the day. And if they're interested in pharmacy, they can hang out in pharmacy. If they're wanting to be a lawyer or a judge, they can spend a day in our courts, different things like that. They'll have the opportunity to do that. College visits, we have one scheduled. We're going to the OSU Indigenous Creedy Day in April. Cultural and community connections, and I mentioned these previously, how to build a teepee. We've done some cooking classes. Our hand game coming in February. And lastly, parental involvement. We had a community meeting in October. We have another one coming in February. And then, of course, we'll have one in April. And I just wanted to increase the frequency of those so that the public has more access to me. We're meeting more frequently, having more conversations, hearing from them. I also have increased our meetings with the IPC, our Indian Parent Committee. Our grant requires an IPC, an Indian Parent Committee. And so we will be meeting more frequently with them as well. And lastly, tribal collaboration, just having ongoing meetings with tribes in our area. To date, Kaw Nation and the Ponca tribe, which I'm Ponca, so it's a little bit easier to keep that going, have been very receptive, very open to working with the district, and I hope to grow that with the Tonkawa tribe, the Osage tribe, and the Oto tribe as well. Goals for the future would be to increase funding. We need more TAs. We need more training opportunities. Enhancing the enrollment process. I'm currently working with Betty Lynn with Power School. There are several elements with Power School that are missing that I think would increase our numbers and would also provide me more data. So we're working on Power School with that. More printed materials and social media awareness. We do have a brochure. It's beautiful. We share it a lot. I worked on an infographic campaign with My Media Matters, and I have those. I've kind of been holding on to them. I'm very excited to start rolling those out slowly. Cultural connections. I've talked with a few folks about a language class at the high school, and we'll keep having those conversations. I'm hoping that's something that we can achieve in the next year to two. Culturally competent on-site behavioral health. Talked a little bit earlier about an on-site LPC. I'm going to say this again just because Mr. Lean's in the room, but I really want a garden. We talked about this last year, and I was all excited about a greenhouse, and he said, that greenhouse isn't there anymore, so we're going to have to think monthly training and student-centered, culturally competent learning kits. That is something, I brought this with me this evening, indigenizing spaces. This is from the OKCPS Native American Student Services. We went to a training last week, my staff and I, the Oklahoma Council for Indian Education. And one of the tracks, or the trainings that we sat in, they talked about this pamphlet. And I feel like the high school met last Wednesday, and I met with one of the principals, and there were several teachers in that staff meeting that voiced a desire to provide more culturally competent spaces for our students. And so she and I were able to talk about that and what that looks like, and I feel like something like this is a great start. So I just wanted to share this with you guys. It talks about different resources, tips, communication, and different things like that. So this is a goal for the future as well. And I have lots of really pretty pictures, but I can't share them with you. Some of them are with our Title VI TAs. I also shared a beautiful story. Cher Kumso, who's no longer with us, but she was a Title VI TA at Woodlands, and she had a nice little ceremony with Mr. Williams before she left, and he had really great things to say about her. You guys can still see these, I'll slow down. Just a few pictures from the mini powwow. Again, we had record-breaking numbers. Over 100 dancers came. And what is really exciting about that too, I want you to do the math just for a second, is we requested 3 SUVs. And out of those 3 SUVs, 2 were full, 1 was like off and on, not full. That means the other, 80 some kids were being transported by family all day, every day. To me, that's exciting, that's engagement, that's our families investing. And anything that we can do to grow that excites me. So I wanted to share that little fun bit. This is something I think I shared with you guys. If I did already, forgive me, but Miss Jean Ailey, who's here, did an art project with the East Middle School students in the spring. And the reason I highlight this in these photos, if you look at the picture, the second photo, that young lady, I have a really cool story. She is now selling her artwork out of Sackett Gallery. She receives a monthly income from her art, and all of that, and she's receiving private lessons with Miss Sackett, who is a former educator at Ponca City Public Schools. All of that came about through one activity. A lot of the community was like, we want that painting. How do we get that painting? And I thought, okay, how do we get this in the hands of them? They're all asking to buy it, and I don't have the means to do that. And Miss Sackett came to our training in June, and she said, how can I help? And so I just think that's a beautiful story. You know, that's the way people get engaged with what we're doing. And now this young lady, her grades are improving, her attendance is improving, her communication is improving. Jean shared with me last year, it was really hard to get her to open up or talk or share. Now she's coming to my office weekly. She's not afraid to ask for help. She's not afraid to say, you know, hey, this is where I'm at, I'm struggling. And so I really wanted to share that story with you guys. Very, very neat. And these are just some pictures of our meeting workshops. The West Junior High did that for the month of Native American Heritage Month, and our students all made earrings. I think even some of our teachers were gifted some beaded earrings out of that project. This is West Middle School. They made wajapi, which is just like a berry sauce, and they had a full-blown meal, and the kids were able to share in that. These are just a few of the pictures from the teepee exhibition at the Little Cook's Home. Some of our students and our elder there, his son, showing the students how to put a teepee up. And that is it. So we had invited folks from our Indian Parent Committee, Ms. Eva, I see her back there, thank you for coming. We have several sick on our IPC, and then I had invited our tribal council, and they're not. So a lot of people told me they were going to be here but weren't. So, but that's it. I didn't know if there was any questions I could answer or.
Yeah, I've got one question. I apologize for y'all not seeing the pictures. They were excellent. It was really a good presentation. And the pictures were really colorful and appropriate. Okay, you mentioned number 3 and number 4 in your goals. That you've been here 2 years now. I think I've got the right to ask you, did you meet them? Number 3, on your graduation rates, and then your decrease in dropouts.
Well, so I mentioned earlier how Power School is not up to par with how we're trying to pull our data. I did meet with Atlanta, I don't think that we are, if I'm being honest. That's why I'm pulling the TA to come to the high school, because I don't think that we're meeting that, I would say. I'll know more in May. Our dropout, our graduation rates, yeah. So, but I think with Power, so what's the struggle with Power School is some of the tribes are listed and some of them aren't. I mean, there's over 549 tribes, and I think, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, they came in and they added some tribes, but not all. And so we're not able to have our students choose tribes, or if they choose, if they're multiracial like my children, Power School's not pulling them. So we're not being able to pull the data quite yet, but Betty is working on it. So I'm hoping as we move forward with Power School, we'll be able to start pulling better numbers and give you guys that data. Right now, all we really have to work with is the state, and it's, yeah, well, that's what it's showing.
You're doing a wonderful job, Alex, I'm sorry, I mean, you are, you're doing a wonderful job, you're learning a lot, the kids are learning a lot, and you have a lot of kids that are involved, a lot of those things, so good job, so thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to all, pass on thank yous to your TAs and all the people involved, and just all our work that you guys do. I entertain a motion to, no, we just need to take a vote. We don't have to do a motion. Okay, you need a motion. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion, because I made the motion. Second by Dawn. Roll call.
Robin Riley,
Aye.
Judy Church, Don Isley, Anna Rowland, Nancy Zimmerstein. Aye.
Item 5 is the superintendent's report with potential board discussion.
Lori's got handouts. We'll pivot as well. I apologize to the public on that. I'm sure I'm going to hear about this one. And we'll remedy that for next month. I know the board can see this, but if you do want a copy of the presentation, Lori Graham has those. Thanks, Lori, for pivoting and making those quickly. You know, yesterday I kind of talked about in my weekly update to the board how I thought it might be kind of fun to do a yearly rewind. It's just some of the stuff that we do as a school district that I think we just take for granted in our day-to-day. You know, we're putting out fires and helping serve the public, you know, all 4,800 students and 800 employees, and then the greater community as a whole. But I think it's good to pause as an organization and reflect on the past year to see what lessons you can learn from, and just also highlight some of the growth we've done, some of the things that we've changed. I mean, just a year ago in January, you still had Shelley as superintendent. This board had not decided yet on the transition on what we were wanting to do there. We were still bidding stuff to be done in the Anderson building and just starting the bidding for the softball project that is nearly completed now. I thought that was pretty crazy. At this time, there's still two facilities or properties still standing north of Solons that we had made an agreement in principle that had not closed on yet, and so we were working with the city on that. This is also the same month that this board learned about safe rooms and building code requirements for the concert hall. So we had to push pause on that entire project to meet with state and local officials to try and come up with a solution that ultimately resulted in us building a safe room in the concert hall. And then we are also talking about how we could take and bid off all the routine maintenance of our HVAC units in our district. You know, we have about 800 rooftop units that all require filter changes, and we had one HVAC technician on staff, so we talked about what we could do to help make sure that our units were not having the routine maintenance and trying to extend their life expectancy. And then on top of that, the legislature kicked off in session with the State of the States, with Governor Stitt, and then we bid the high school bathroom phase 2 project that was going to be done this summer, which is completed now. In February, we toured the Phillips 66 leadership team through Anderson and started laying the foundational groundwork for a grant proposal with them. We still hadn't started the softball and baseball project yet, as we were still working with the city on stormwater and all of the code requirements that were necessary for those two projects. The governor touted in the state of the state that vouchers were his #1 priority and the legislative goal, which was ultimately achieved. The Union roof, we were still putting a roof on Union at that time. That was delayed and causing some issues with interruptions and teachers having to be extra flexible with noise. At that point, we had started STEM director interviews. We were talking about who was going to take over and lead our STEM transition at the Anderson. And then Shelley and I were starting our weekly legislative trips down to the Capitol for our lobbying efforts. And I think probably the coolest thing was this Board of Education had selected me to be the next superintendent for this board and for the school district. So that was back in February. March, we started talking about, hey, what do we do to transition our website? That's a large undertaking for a district this size when you think about all of the requirements that you have to have policies listed, you have to have forms for access to different programs. Every little state and federal nuance has to be achieved with the website. And, we had our teacher of the year banquets. I thought that was a huge success. The baseball project was bid and approved by this board. We started talking to furniture vendors to see what we needed to do to outfit the Anderson facility. We planned the Roosevelt Group project that was completed this summer. The indoor facility and design team meetings ratcheted up to where they were meeting instead of every few weeks to once a week to make sure that we were making sure checking off all the boxes to ensure that project, win bid, kick off with success there. In April, the first part of that month was spent with you all at the NSBA conference as we learned about best practices in school districts across the United States. We started interviewing for the Liberty Principal. I think we got a good one with Jody Fincher there. We had some intensive meetings about the future of where the STEP program was going to be housed in the future of this school district. I almost forgot about that, Amy. So that was a big discussion internally here. We did close on the last two properties, north of Solons, and bids for demolition went out immediately afterwards, so we could make sure we could kick that project off once we got a bid. That'll be coming up here soon. And then I had started personally meeting with every director and principal, key stakeholder in our district, to kind of outline what they needed, what kind of problems that they were facing, and what areas of support that we needed in this transition. And then interviewing for the position that was vacated by myself in April. Still at this time, I want you to know we still have Shelley superintendent, but her day is fast approaching in May as we had her celebrated her retirement, graduation. We had named Jason to be the executive director of operations, which created an athletic director opening, so we convened another search to look for an athletic director, in which we found Joe Turner. We were property committee viewing and listening to different lighting options for outdoor field lighting and indoor lighting at the indoor facility. Concert hall was put back out to bid to incorporate a new safe room, so we could start that project back up. And then we had to go to the K County Commissioners meeting I did with David Cummings to petition the district court for taking over the city easements so we could own an alley and 6th Street and close those from the city of Ponca City. So that was fun. And in June, we did hire STEM director, and we started meeting with her on a regular basis as we kind of were talking about what items we might need for the Phillips 66 grant, course design for the Anderson science projects that or science classes we were anticipating being ready to start at the beginning of the year, but then we noticed that project had to be put back till this spring. We talked with the high school admin over possible policy changes, more like possible policy implementation. We held our negotiation meetings, started to discuss that. Our career fairs were held, and over the summer we hired 62 new employees to make sure certified employees to ensure that every one of our students have a teacher or staff person in their classroom ready to go. July, I went down to the Capitol to meet with the other top 20 largest school districts in Oklahoma and Senator Adam Pugh for 2024 legislative goals. Senator Radke was the one that wrote the voucher bill that ultimately passed in the House and signed by the governor. But we talked about different challenges that we thought we were facing in the upcoming legislative year. That's getting ready to kick off this January, so next month. We did have the bid opening for indoor facility and athletic field, and much to Robin's chagrin, I did take a victory lap on that because that was a huge project, and he still thinks I shouldn't have taken a victory, but we will celebrate big milestones. So that was a big moment for our district. One of the things of being a superintendent, I really wanted to get out to other sites or districts to see how other superintendents do it. Chuck McCauley at Bartlesville was gracious enough to meet with me, agree to meet with me. And that was my first meeting with him over there, and I thought that was really, really transformative and gave me a lot of good ideas for my first year. We did hold official negotiation meetings with the ACT, and they ratified the agreement, so I was really excited about that. Not until August, but they ultimately did. I'm giving a spoiler alert, they ratified it. And then my first superintendent training sessions kicked off for the year. Now we're getting the school start. At this point, I attended a town hall here in City Hall to discuss housing issues in Ponca City that was attended by other agencies and businesses and private citizens. An open meeting at Town Hall, Eric Stevenson and the city manager, Mayor held that as part of the Oklahoma Academy meetings that they do each year. But this one year was focused on housing, which I think is a critical issue in our community that I think will have direct impacts on our school district moving forward. So it was really nice to be able to lend my voice at the table there and kind of explain how that housing, critical supply of affordable housing does have implications on if we can grow as a school district and what options we provide families in there. We coupled that with federal delegation discussions, and I had a meeting with Senator Mark Wayne Mullen pre his snafu in the Senate hearings this past month. But I thought it was still productive to talk about federal issues and try to educate our federal delegation on how federal funding and programs are a critical piece to public schools, and try to educate our senator on that as well. I think that was positive on our end. I don't know how well received on his end it was, but I'm going to advocate for our schools there. Our Community Health Foundation held its first parent meeting, that where they talked about the dangers of vaping and the prevalence of vaping in our community. That was kind of our first partnership to try to help spread the word and encourage parents to get out to hear that, because I do think that vaping is becoming more prevalent as the access to it is just almost non-existent. It's just so accessible for our students today. Hey, back to school, it was one of my most favorite memories, my first back to school superintendent. The meetings with City Chamber and BCDA, that one, we've been talking with the leadership of those organizations about, is there a role, and I think this board knows, and I know our team does, is there a role for thinking about what the vision, of casting a vision for our community for the next 10 to 15 years? Well, what do we want Ponca City to be? And what part of that does Ponca City Public Schools play? So we're just kind of talking about that as leaders of those organizations on what would that look like a community-wide vision planning or strategic plan. The city did this back in 2007 or 8. It was the Vision 2020 plan. Well, 2020's come and gone, and we need to be thinking 2040, on what vision or what goals can we set as a community and try to achieve. And I think there'd be a lot of synergy between our organizations. And then also, I put this on here, I don't want to put every meeting, but the coaches meeting I thought was important for our district, and Joe Turner's not here, but Jason was there. But we really, as a new superintendent, new athletic director, I felt really compelled to explain to our coaches that serve our students in extracurriculars that one, extracurriculars are a privilege, not a right, but two, as coaches, we talk a lot about the Wildcat Way, and it is very important that our coaches understood that modeling the Wildcat Way in my first year as a superintendent would be very important, and we wouldn't accept less than that. And I felt like this board supported that, and I hope our actions throughout the year have also supported that commitment there. September, we had our open gate security solution that we brought to this board as a result of some of the issues that happened at the very week 0 football game between Choctaw and Del City. And we had some private funding come on board, and this board committed as well to help fund that. Those are still on the way. They haven't arrived yet. They did get here today? Oh, there you go.
Training's Friday.
Training's on Friday, there we go. So, we should get that implemented, when we come back in January, for our fall and winter events. September also marked my 100 days as superintendent. COSA and OSSBA trainings kicked off with our first fall session over in Enid, and our OSSBA rep has secured Ponca City as the host site in April. So thanks for doing that, Judy. Appreciate that. I don't have to drive somewhere. I can just drive down the block. Homecoming, I thought was just so much fun. Again, I celebrate the first, so the first homecoming as superintendent was a blast. I'm so glad it didn't rain. I remember calling y'all in a panic because I thought, oh Lord, what have we ever canceled an homecoming parade? But we did make it through there. Dr. Hopkins and I participated in some AI webinars. That's going to be an emerging technology that this school district is going to be prepared for in the coming months, in the next upcoming school year in particular, as it's here, and our students have access to it and probably have tried to implement it in a few classes, but we are, as a district, need to consider what the implications that's going to be in our curriculum offerings and how we incorporate that moving forward. The Poe High Hall of Fame banquet was a success. And we learned a lot of great things from that, including I had to MC it, and I'll do better for them. I told them I was kind of my first time, so I'll do better as an MC. But I thought it moved off well, and it was some great Hall of Fame inductees. In October, that's our annual reporting. That's just, I learned so much on just not to bother Lori or Maureen and Power School and Dr. Hopkins, just let them get that stuff, get that going, and just, we have a lot happening, all the way from HR to special services. There's a lot of reporting that happens in October. But I was happy to report that our district did grow in enrollment. 100 students is not something to sneeze at, and a lot of districts across Oklahoma can't say that, but Ponca City was a growing district, so that was great. Grand Lake Partnerships, we're really talking about how we can expand mental health services for our students and families in this district. This board committed to put a counselor in every school building, but I wish I could say that's fixing the problem, but I still think mental health is at an all-time crisis for our families and our students, and we've got to figure out ways to get more resources in some of these families' hands so these students can see success in the classroom and one day in the workplace. We did officially submit our P66 grant proposal that month. This was a large, considerably large donation, one that does not approved on the local level, but will be vetted in Houston through the corporate office, and we're hopeful to see and hear positive news on that. I've heard that it's gone through a couple of rounds, and thumbs up so far as we progress through that one. I attended my first USSA fall conference. That was led by Dr. Pennington, and I came back fired up on a lot of different things that our team's going to be working on this week and in 2024. Some different things about leadership development and organizational development. And Dr. Hawkins did the State of the Schools presentation at City Hall while I was at that, so I appreciate her hitting on that. The Curl Leadership Evaluation Training, we don't even use this, but by law, as a first-year superintendent, you have to be trained in this, and I am trained and took and passed that test, and so I'm going to brag about that every chance I get. November, we had Thanksgiving break, and I'm kind of getting wrapped up in the more superintendent trainings, but we did do the West Middle School Wildcat Secure entry bids that you guys are going to talk about tonight. Another Bartlesville visit with myself and Dr. McCauley. This one I thought was really powerful. We kind of talking more on organizational development, talent retention, and just some long-range community planning that their district has undergone in the last 5 years that I think creates good takeaways for Ponca City as we move on. But we haven't done finished December yet, but these are some of the goals that we have for not only just this month, but moving into 2024 and some of the resolutions that we have. One is I've been emphasizing with our team and our principals to finish strong. There's a tendency for some teachers to see kind of that light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe let's put in a movie today. And that's just a wasted class experience for a student to make some magic happen. So we're really emphasizing to finish strong with our principals, our teachers. In fact, I think we're finishing so strong, I'm starting to get complaints from parents that we're doing too much and maybe too many things. So we're going to have to evaluate that and see how to thread that needle there. But we do have some critical positions that we will need staff. And just as a reminder to this board and to the public, with our process is we post these positions that are open. Every position is posted. And for people to consider, they want to be considered to, as a viable candidate, they must apply for one of those positions online on our website. Some of the positions we have open right now that are critical to us is football operations. If any of you know a good French teacher, I'll take one. I think it would help us so much in spring semester. But, you know, we had a French opening kind of middle of the first semester, and we've been utilizing an online platform to help implement that instruction. But if we could find an in-person French teacher, that would be fantastic for our students, a better fit. We still need special education teachers. I put teacher, but I'll take as many as you got on that. Bus drivers and a bus mechanic. We have been without a bus mechanic as well since about September. We're trying to get that position filled. We asked our community partners. I've tried to poach from a few local businesses, but that's not been well received. So I'll keep going. I'll keep trying on that. And an assistant female wrestling coach and then just child nutrition, general workers. You know, support staff are vital to this operation of this district, and we just definitely need. But before I move on to my next, I'm going to give a little picture on state funding. But before I move on to that, I mean, I think it's important to pause and reflect and say, man, we do a lot. We have done a lot. That doesn't count all the little fires on a day-to-day basis. We've done a lot in 12 months as a district. So I hope the public is proud of that. All right. So what to expect in 2024? I'm challenging my team that we need to really focus on our leadership development, and myself included. What are we doing to become the leaders worth following? You know, it's one thing to say that you're in this position, but are you walking the walk and talking the talk? So we're going to really push ourselves. We had a great meeting last 2 weeks ago. We're going to have a follow-up meeting this week on just some different tools or options that we can have or possibly consider, this board consider as we really evaluate what we think might be the best tool for us to move that way. I've met with some people that have worked with Norman Public Schools and the Del City School or Mid-Del Schools. That was one group we met with, but then we've had some other organizations that we've had a history with that offers something similar. So we're going to evaluate those this week and be able to bring those to this board hopefully in January and maybe approve something in February that can help our team be able to grow. One of the things I really want to work on is just creating a good framework and make sure that we're all speaking the common language, that we're all, you know, working well together, that we're ironing out any wrinkles that we have in our staff development. I think some of that's going to be what tools are we utilizing in developing our own leaders in our districts. I think what tools are we doing to develop our teachers in our district, or even our new teachers. I think we can be doing a better job in growing our teachers to create more of that sticky retention into our district. So that's going to be a goal of ours in 2024. Operations goal, I want to take an outside-in approach to operations, and what I mean by that is what you see on the outside should reflect what's happening on the inside. And I think for a long time this district has neglected the outside of our schools in order to make sure that we're taking care of everything on the inside, but I think we need to move on to the outside so that we can convey to the community that we do care and respect our properties and what this community has blessed us with in the way of resources, and that's happening as well on the inside of the building. So kind of an outside-in approach, and we'll be talking more about that in our monthly committee meetings as well. And then curriculum goals, right now we've been assessing second quarter benchmark assessment data. Our curriculum committee met at Union this month to see their data wall, where our students are progressing, how our teachers, every teacher identifies every student and where they're either growing or not growing, how they're moving up or down with math, reading, and other curriculum areas. So that's happening across our district, and it's important that our principals know that the superintendent cares about that and is also checking on that. So we'll be doing that for the third quarter as well, third and fourth quarters. But that's just kind of a brief overview of our New Year's resolutions. But before I move on to my fun charts, do you guys have any questions? Okay, well, I wanted to give the board just a little brief snapshot of where I think state funding is going to shape up here for the upcoming legislative session. So in January, when we come back to our January meeting, it'll be kind of at that point where I'm going to talk about what OCOSA and OSSBA's legislative goals are. We'll have our COSA legislative kickoff conference January 23rd, which myself and a few other team members will be attending. But I wanted to talk a little bit about where revenue is going to shape up, where I think revenue is going to shape up, and what our outlook is for next year. So what I want you to look at, the purple there is total revenues collected in FY23. The yellow is revenue estimates for FY24. The green is FY24 collections. You want the green to be greater than the yellow. If the green is greater than the yellow, that means we will not have to, we won't face a revenue failure as a state. Because each year the governors build a budget, the legislature passes the budget, and says we think we can operate off this. So as long as that green bar is beating the yellow bar, then the legislature's goals are met. If you compare the green bar to the purple bar, that is our economic outlook as a state. So if our green bar is lower than the purple bar, economic conditions are decreasing. So while we are still outpacing estimates, there is going to probably end up being a revenue shortfall. So there's going to be a cut off of state appropriations coming up next year. Now, they haven't decided where that cut's going to be, and I'm spoiled, I don't know that either, but they get to decide all that this fall, this spring. So I wanted to give you, this is wearing my economics hat. I'm trying to give you a forecast of economic picture for Oklahoma. So the next picture, gross production oil. This is where most of our funding can come from. And the purple is what last year's collections were for gross production in oil, and then the gold is what's happening this year. The gold is what's estimated to be collected, and you don't even see the green bar because that is total collections. And that can be all attributed to the decrease in oil prices. Crude oil is decreasing, natural gas went down another 6% today, so we have that to worry about. Same thing on this chart, as long as, this is other tax collections, there's 34 other tax collection ways that the state of Oklahoma collects taxes. Green, if you compare green to purple, that's an economic indicator. So is Oklahoma increasing in its economic outlook, or is it decreasing? If you're looking at other tax collections, it's increasing. If you look at gross production tax, it's way down. And gross production tax is going to be a heavier weight than these other tax collections. So we are still doing well there, which is encouraging. Sales tax is another breakout funding source I want to show you there. Again, green to purple, you can almost see it's almost a flat. So our sales tax is about flat as it was compared to a year ago at this time, but still outpacing state estimates. Individual income tax. This is another large funding source for the state of Oklahoma. You can see green compared to purple starting to decrease, and has decreased since August. And I anticipate that trend will continue through this fourth quarter in 24 or 23. So House Bill 1017, this is one of the largest funding sources in states for common education. This includes our class size caps, a lot of the other taxes that we saw from cigarette tax, tribal gaming. You can see it's going to be pretty flat compared from February 19 to June 19. There was a cut in the individual tax at the very top, and that's due to the $13 million that's estimated will be coming out for school choice coming out. Honestly, I feel like $13 million is a very conservative estimate. I anticipate it's going to be significantly more than $13 million. And again, that's not a, it's going to show as a tax cut because it's a tax, what am I trying to say, tax waiver for parents. What am I trying to say? Credit, tax credit, yes. Yeah, so it's going to show it on state reporting when it comes to their checkbook that they should collect that state tax because it's going to be tax credits for individual families moving forward. So here's your general fund estimate. Long story short, I think there's going to be about a $300 million difference between funding last year compared to funding this year. That's not just ComEd, that's the whole big pot of money. I think the legislature is going to have about $300 million less than they had this year to appropriate to all the state agencies. I've already read that Charles McCall and the Speaker of the House or the Speaker of the House and Greg Tree are talking about higher education should be the priority maybe this year instead of common education. Something I'm sure that a lot of the common education people won't let them forget, but I think our job this spring is how we educate our legislators on how much the school choice tax credits are going to impact the state funding picture. I still think 55 million is a very conservative estimate on that. I think we'll have a lot more families take advantage of this program. It is hard capped this year, but I think after year 3, it's wide open for as many families to participate as possible. So I just don't know how we're going to write this check as a state. So just giving you as clear as mud picture of what the economic forecasting for the state of Oklahoma is going to be. I think, personally, we are trending, the economic indicators are trending that we may be facing a slight turnaround, a slight dip for next school year. But just something this board needs to be aware of moving forward. But any questions on that?
What's your best estimate of how much we're going to be paying Ponca City schools?
Ponca City schools, I don't. Usually, what they've done in the past is they'll say we flat funded education, and what they'll do is they'll say, well, instead of putting money in textbooks, we'll put that in the general fund for schools. But then the schools don't have any textbook money to purchase things on. So I don't know if they'll do some of those gymnastics this year. I think after the governor's state of the state in January, I think we'll have a clear idea of where he's going to try to take the state with his budget. But I think it's too soon to tell you what I expect the rest of the week. The best thing to combat this, and I'm going to tell this to all the parents out there, is to have more babies and get them enrolled in Ponca City schools, and our enrollment numbers will grow, and we don't have to worry about it. So, if that's not an option, then we'll work as a team to figure out the best way to absorb anything. But I think right now, I wouldn't anticipate much. I mean, $300 million in a $9 billion budget, or $9 billion of appropriations, it's almost surrounding here, so in that. So who knows? It depends on if there's any special interest projects that sneak in at the last minute, or there typically is. So. But I do anticipate we'll have a little less than what we did this year to work on. I don't have enough direction yet to tell Eric the budget. I would think at this time we can budget move forward. So. I will say that our rainy day fund has $2.2 billion in it to say, so that's encouraging. I remember we had 73 cents in it, and we're facing revenue failures every quarter because collections were upside down.
Timing-wise, when will we have a better feel for what our cuts are?
So the Board of Equalization will meet this month. That's the board that gets together and says, Governor Stitt, we think you have this much money to appropriate. And that's just still an estimate. They will have another meeting in January that buttons up all of FY23. So at that point, at the end of January, we'll know this is how much money the state's going to be budgeting. And then it'll be our job as educators to advocate why we feel we deserve this portion of it. So, not that we want to put ourselves against everyone else, but we kind of do sometimes because we are the most important. But I don't want to. You can print that, Kelly. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay. Again, I apologize, public, but hopefully those handouts helped, and if not, I'll take that feedback. So, thank you all.
We are on item 6 for the consent agenda. A motion is required for the approval of the consent agenda as printed or as amended. Board members may, however, call for a separate vote on any or all items listed on the consent agenda. We have 2 items: the minutes from the November 13th regular Board of Education meeting and November 16th special Board of Education meeting. The second one is of contracts and agreements under $10,000. Entertain a motion. Nancy?
Second.
Seconded by Dawn. Any discussion or questions on those? Call for the vote.
Anna Roland,
Aye.
Don Newsom,
Aye.
Nancy Zimmerstein, Judy Truitt, Robin Riley.
Aye.
Item 7, action items, motion is required. Item 1, consider and take action. I'm sorry.
Oh, item one, consider to take action on the following district financial reports. We have A through M.
Move for approval.
Move for approval from Dawn,
I will second it.
second by Nancy. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm not sure which one of these it falls under. But I'm confused on the two $27,000 POs for goggles for Garfield and Roosevelt. I need somebody to explain that to me. If curriculum has approved that, or how come they were on contracts?
Well, I can speak about the contracts. I did look at policy. Policy says boards will take contracts if it's not just a good, it's a service as well. So if the goggles came with a 3-year commitment, then we have to do that. But since it's just a piece of equipment, we don't have to take it to it won't be on the contracts. It would be listed for board approval under General Fund 11 accomplishments. But I can't speak to the curriculum stuff.
Under Title IV, we have strict guidelines. You know, we have to have 20% for well-rounded, 20% for safe and healthy, and a portion of that money goes to technology. In 2017-18, I started purchasing the virtual reality goggles we first purchased for the high school. The next year, we purchased for either
Well,
each
wait a
class.
minute. We just approved about 3 or 4 months ago, because Delana gave a presentation for goggles. I think it was for your class, wasn't it, Zach? Or the science class or the math class, that's what it was, for the math. And we just approved those about 3 or 4 months ago.
I don't know about that. All I know is that they said no.
Wasn't it?
That was ESSER, that was Prisms, and it
3 or
was
4 months
last
ago.
year and the year before, yeah.
It was like
It was the
25,000.
renewal of it, yes.
What fund did that come from?
ESSER.
Okay, finish.
Okay, so we started in 2017-18. We did bring this to the curriculum committee. Nancy and Judy were both present. Mary James did the presentation where you have the goggles, and you take a virtual field trip. So once we used the ACE technology money for secondary, then we started receiving Title IV money. And at that point in time, we started with Lincoln, since it was our highest poverty school. The next year, we purchased for Liberty. And then this year, we had some carryover from last year, because last year we purchased radios for all the school sites that needed radios. And so we budgeted for 3 radios per school site, 7 for the high school, 4 or 5 for West, and then the other schools 3. So not all of the schools wanted it, so we had some carryover at the end of the year. So we used that carryover to purchase 2 sets of the virtual reality goggles. And Robin, this is, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you can go, any discipline can use this. You can have science, social studies, English, physical education, music, art, because it really takes them on a field trip to wherever you may want to go. They can go and look inside the volcano. They can go to any museum and see, walking up to the museum, it gives them a 360 view. They can go in, they can look at paintings. It's really something that these kids will not probably have the opportunity to see in their lifetimes. Things that I've not seen in my lifetime. I just don't understand why we would not want to provide our teachers this resource and these students this experience they have to go places that they'll never be able to go again. And also, so that the teachers can plan a lesson. They can take these kids on this virtual field trip. And then it also has follow-up activities for the teacher to use in their lesson. So it's their classroom sets of 25. They are for the entire school. And as I said, any discipline within that school can use those goggles. So our goal is to provide them for each school. So that will leave us, if we purchase these 2 this year, it will leave us with Union, Woodlands, and Traffic.
So has curriculum agreed to $250,000 expenditure? Because that's about how much we're looking at. If it's
25,000 of elementary.
west and east.
No, we're just doing 2 schools this year. It's only 2
Right,
schools.
the total, we're looking at $250,000.
I look at it like, you have to use this specifically. I mean, this money, Title IV has to be used for this specific thing, we can't use it
Yeah, we
for
can't.
anything we want.
Well, it doesn't have to be goggles, it just has to be.
Actually, I still have them. We have like a virtual set at home, I think. They're the best thing ever.
This is just an on what Title III is.
Mhm.
What we can use Title III for.
But I guess that's the question to you. Can we just spend $250 million or $250,000 that nobody really knows about other than curriculum?
And how much all the time department.
That's never approved before.
Did it have to be approved by the board?
Well, first, but you got 500 POs a month,
There are the PPOs.
about 500.
So it was approved back when we started.
Well, it was pitched to the curriculum committee, and the way I understand it,
Yes, when we started this,
2017.
yes. And each year, every 3 years, under Title, federal programs, we have to create a needs assessment. So we survey all of our principals to see what are your needs in your building that you can't purchase with your regular budgets, or don't have enough money in your Title I budgets. So with that, then we go in and prioritize to see what we can fund. These are things that they can't fund with their side budgets, so there's not enough money. And
I guess I'm a little confused because I was of the impression with Delana, what she presented was kind of a trial to see if we liked it.
that was a different.
This is,
Is different goals or different funding?
I don't know.
But
it is,
it was, yeah.
Different monies.
yes, it's different money. ESSER's also federal funds. This is federal funds. But PRISM's was specifically for math enhancement with the virtual reality lessons that were aligned to standards at the high school math for Algebra 1 and geometry.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the prisms came with a curriculum, like a packaged curriculum that you could offer and provide through.
Yes, it does.
These are
Yes.
more of an open, I guess more of an open system in that you can interact with a variety of different softwares that are built for virtual reality.
And the prisms were part of the learning loss requirement that we had to have for us. We had to spend a certain amount on learning loss, and it went under that.
I guess I'm still hung up on why it wasn't really approved in the board.
Well,
Well, it's 2017, 18, it wasn't, not.
Well, we couldn't have approved future expenditures.
But you could have had a plan on, hey,
You had a plan, but you couldn't approve it.
of course, no, that's why it's on this month and not done in 2017, 18.
But once you get started, you're really committed to it.
I mean,
Yeah,
it'd be hard to
give
say.
it to schools,
It'd
not
be
give it
hard to
to
say.
the other elementary schools.
it is part of our,
A
it is,
little bit at a time.
each year we have to, under federal programs, we have to have consultation with stakeholders, which are community members, parents, students, administrators. I don't know, Annie, were you in our last one? Anyway, that has been part of this plan within that, federal programs guidelines that we have to, adhere to. And so that has been presented, at least twice a year for the past, well, when we started this 3 years ago. So we'll have to do another one this year at some point.
So Nancy, you and Judy were okay with this?
Oh, 100%. It was, did we go to France? What did we do when you showed it to us?
I don't remember where we
But we
went.
went somewhere to show us different areas, yeah. I mean, it is really neat. And then there is a game out there that kids have that you can do games, getting practice, whatever. They're pretty cool. I'll have to bring it over and hang out.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we have Nancy with the motion and Dawn with the second. Dawn made the motion, Nancy seconded that. Thank you. And items A through M, any other questions or discussion? Call for vote.
Judy Truitt. Anna Roll. Nancy Zimmerstein. Robin Riley. Don Newsom.
Number 2 is to consider and take action on hiring the following individual as adjunct teacher as specified, Amanda Butler for elementary education. Entertain a motion on that.
Good talk, Thursday, September. Amanda Butler is an elementary education teacher. Adjunct teacher.
Need a motion for approval. Take a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Nancy. Any discussion or questions? Call for vote.
Don Newsom. Anna Roll. Judy Truitt. Nancy Zimmerstein. Robin Riley.
Aye.
Item 3, consider from Rick Scott Construction for the West Middle School and Wildcat Academy Secure Entries Project. And Jason Levitt is here to answer any questions that anyone has.
Make a motion to approve item 3.
Motion to approve from Don. Second is Judy. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. What is an estimated GMP versus a regular GMP?
I went back and looked at the GMPs that Rick Scott has provided in historically, and every one of those that we've approved from this board have had that estimated GMP. I don't project that this will even come close to going over that. We have a good, healthy contingency and allowance built into that project.
But being an estimated, can it go over that?
If it were to go over that,
Were
we
there
would
any
have
bid
to.
packages that weren't bid on that, or we got every bid package? If there was a bid package that was,
No, there was they still got the glass.
no, that's included in this, I know
Yeah.
that.
We got the glass
They
next.
did it. Somebody did, wasn't this one? They had to rebid it again?
This is the rebid for that, for Lady.
Oh, okay.
But there might have been a minor package on the GMP that wouldn't have much bearing on it. There may be, I don't know, interior finish, but I don't, was there?
The biggest ticket item on there was the glass and the hollow metal. So we did get that solidified. Every other package on that was between $15,000 and $50,000 for, whether that was drywall, electrical. So I don't project that it would go over that $517,000.
This doesn't show any packages on approved, so I think that's the whole price.
Well, I mean, that's my concern is the estimated. Wouldn't this a bond project to start with?
Yes.
With the general funds?
Correct, yes. Yeah. No, it's got general conditions on here, design contingency. Well, there's no contractor's contingency, TMP. And it's, this is very similar to what Scott Construction is.
How much was the bond issue on this?
It's $750, I think.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Does anybody have one besides Rob, just for rules of work? All right, go ahead, Bob.
How much is each of the two locations?
It doesn't break it down by, I'm sorry, Jason, you want me to go?
Yeah, I got it. You can have it if you want. Wingman. It was all combined together in these bid packages. I believe the West, since there was such a large storefront windows on West, it did require a lot more funds. I think in the bond transparency that we published in the 2021 bond, it was, I want to say, over $350,000 for West, and Wildcat was significantly less than that.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, we have Don and Judy, so call for the vote.
Nancy Zimmershed. Aye. Don Newsom.
Aye.
Anna Roland.
Aye.
Judy Truitt. Robin Riley.
Aye.
Okay, we have, item 4 is consider and take action on the following contracts and agreements. Item A, excuse me, item A, an agreement with Moving Services LLC to provide arbitrage rebate services. Erica Johnson can answer any questions about that one. Item B is a quote from Vance Country Ford for a vehicle purchase for the maintenance department. The amount is $52,990, would come from the building fund. Jason Levitt can answer questions on that. Item C, quote from Vance Country Ford for the purchase of 2 vehicles for district use. The amount is $116,502, and would come from the building fund. Jason Levitt will answer questions. Item D, quote from Vance Country Ford for a vehicle purchase for low ag. And the amount for this one would be used to transport low ag students, and the amount is $74,838.60, and will come from the building fund. And Jason Levitt can answer those questions. Would entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval. For A through B.
Officers for approval. The second. Any discussion or questions on these items? Call for the vote.
Don Newsom.
Aye.
Judy Truitt.
Aye.
Robin Riley.
detailed personnel report. To discuss the evaluation of the superintendent of schools. To discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property. To discuss confidential conversations with the board's attorney concerning pending claims and litigation. And to discuss the grievance filed by Eric Berger regarding the treatment of her child at school where disclosure of information would violate confidentiality requirements of state and or federal law.
Make a motion to convene into executive session.
Second by Nancy. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Robin Riley.
Aye.
Nancy Zimmershed.
Aye.
Anna Roland.
Aye.
John Newsom.
Aye.
Judy Truitt.
Return to open session.
Give me a hug.
Item 7 is recital by the board president that the minutes of the executive session were kept by the board minutes clerk and will remain confidential. Item 8, discussion and vote to accept or reject the grievance and whether to grant or not grant the relief requested.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the grievance and not grant the relief.
Okay, Roberts made the motion to accept the grievance and not grant the relief requested. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dawn. And call for the vote.
What are we voting for this time?
We are voting for, the motion on the table is to accept the grievance
Okay.
and to
Isn't
not,
that two different votes?
no,
No.
it's all in one motion.
It's all in one motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to not grant the relief.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so any further questions about the motion? Okay, call for the vote.
John Newsom.
Aye.
Robin Riley.
Aye.
Anna Roland. Judy Truitt.
Aye.
Nancy Zimmershed.
And item 9, consider and take action on recommendations for termination, reassignment, resignation, and employment of personnel.
Make a motion to approve item.
Dawn's made the motion for approval of item 9 and seconded by Nancy. Any discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Judy Truitt.
Aye.
John Newsom.
Aye.
Nancy Zimmershed. Anna Roland. Robin Riley.
Aye. Congratulations, Laura.
No, thank you.
Item 9, I'm sorry, is there any business? Item 9, a motion is required for adjournment.
Second.
Moved by Nancy, seconded by Dawn. All unanimous?